Welcome to the deep dive.
Hi, everyone. Today we're jumping into Narayanganj in Bangladesh. It's this city just packed with history, industry, life,
Hmm.
right next door to Dhaka, really.
Yeah, we've been digging through quite a bit for you, some articles, sure, but mostly a whole collection of YouTube videos, travelers sharing their experiences, info channels, breaking things down,
Right, covering everything from like its ancient history, geography, the economy today, culture, specific places to check out.
including some really personal takes from someone who actually went exploring there.
So our goal, as always, is to kind of sift through all that information, pull out the really fascinating bits, and give you a clear, informed picture of Narayanganj without, drowning you in details.
Get ready then. We're talking about a city with incredibly deep roots, a place that became this powerhouse of trade, later an industrial engine.
But also one with, unexpected bits of natural beauty and definitely facing some significant modern challenges too.
Okay, so Narayanganj. Let's start with the basics. Geographically, where are we?
Right. So it's strategically placed in Bangladesh. Yeah. Part of the Dhaka division. And the key thing is, it's only about 20 kilometers south of Dhaka City. That proximity is crucial.
And defined by rivers, you said.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Its whole character is shaped by water. It sits right on the banks of the Shitalakshya River.
Hmm?
And you've got the Turag, Balu, Meghna, Brahmaputra rivers all flowing nearby or through the district.
Wow.
These rivers are, well, they're fundamental for its history, trade, everything. And its challenges too, as we'll see.
Right. And what about size, population? Give us a sense of scale.
The district itself is around 775 square kilometers, roughly. But the population density is what's striking.
Really high.
Yeah, it's one of the most densely populated districts in Bangladesh. Over 3.5 million people in the district, and the city area alone has more than 600,000. So it's crowded, it's buzzing.
And the people living there.
The sources mention it's predominantly Muslim, but there's definitely social diversity. Significant Hindu, Christian, and Buddhist communities are part of the mix.
Okay, so a dense, diverse, river-focused city. Known as a major hub today. But you hinted at this deep history. It wasn't always Narayanganj, was it?
No, not at all. Its story really begins much, much earlier with this ancient, incredibly prosperous place called Savarnagram, or Sonargaon.
So Nargo, I've heard that name. Ancient, you say.
Yeah, some sources suggest its roots might go back over 3,000 years.
Oh, 3,000. That's incredible.
Yeah.
What made it so important back then?
Well, for starters, it was a capital city at different times. Under Buddhist rulers, later under kings like the Serpal de Braj dynasty. But maybe its biggest claim to fame, even in deep antiquity, was the muslin trade.
Ah, muslin. That legendary superfine cloth the region was famous for.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Sonargaon was the place for it, a major center for buying and selling this luxury fabric for centuries.
It must have been known far and wide.
Absolutely. It's even mentioned in Kautilya's Arthashastra, that ancient Indian text on politics and economics. That tells you how significant it was on a global scale, even way back then. And you can still feel a connection, a thread, between that ancient muslin and the beautiful Jamdani saris made there today. It's like a living legacy.
That's a powerful connection. So Sonargaon stayed important through the Sultanate period, too.
It did for a good while. The sultans were minting gold coins there in the early 14th century. And it was even a place of defiance. Fakhruddin Mubarak Shah declared independence from Sonargaon in 1338.
Declaring independence from there. And there was that amazing cultural story, too, right, about the poet.
Oh, yeah, this is brilliant. Sultan Ghiyasuddin Azam Shah, late 14th century, he was a patron of the arts. And he actually invited Hafez, the famous Persian poet Hafez, to Sonargaon.
No way, Hafez. In Bengal.
Yes, and apparently Hafez was inspired enough to compose part of his famous work, the Hafez-e-Diwan, for the Sultan. Imagine that connection, Persia and Bengal linked through poetry centuries ago.
That's absolutely fantastic. But empire shift, capitals move. Sonargaon's time as the main center eventually faded. It had one last stand almost with Isa Khan.
Right. Isa Khan. He was a major figure, one of the Barawians, the 12 landlords, who really resisted the Mughals. He ruled from Sonargaon in the late 1500s, fought hard to keep Bengal independent.
A defender of local rule.
Exactly. There are even stories, maybe legends, maybe true, that he defeated the Mughal general Man Singh in battle. But ultimately, the Mughals did take control.
And Sonargaon's prominence faded.
Yeah, after Isa Khan died around 1599, and his son Musa Khan ruled for a bit, its glory days were kind of over. The Mughals shifted the capital of Bengal to Dhaka in 1608.
But they didn't just forget about the area. They saw its strategic value.
Definitely. especially the rivers. They knew they had to control the waterways, mainly because of pirates. Mog and Arakanese raiders were a big problem.
Ah, okay, so they built defenses.
Precisely. That's when you get forts like Haji Ganj and Sonakanda being built along the Shitalakshya River banks. This was mid-17th century, around 1665 according to one source for Sonakanda's purpose, designed specifically to fight off those river pirates.
With walls and cannons pointing at the river, I imagine.
Exactly. You can still see the remnants today.
So that's the ancient and medieval story, largely centered on Sonargaon. The city we call Narayanganj today really takes shape later with the British.
That's right. The East India Company arrives, gets administrative rights, the Diwani, and sets up shop, a trading post, a kuthi. And this spot near the Shitalakshya just naturally develops as a port.
And the name Narayang, where did that come from? It sounds specific.
It is. It's quite a lovely story, actually. There's this religious figure, Bikandal Thakur. He got involved in the salt trade, which was booming thanks to the port, and apparently made quite a bit of money.
Okay.
So he used his profits to establish a market, a ganj, right there on the riverbank.
Yeah.
And the income from this market went to support his religious center, his Akra, which was dedicated to the Hindu deity Narayan.
Ah, so Narayan's Ganj, or market, funded by salt.
Exactly. Narayanganj, a market born from trade and dedicated to a deity.
That's unique. And it wasn't just salt for long, was it? Something else became massive there.
Jute. Jute was the absolute game changer for Narayanganj during the British era.
How did that happen?
Well, samples were sent to London, late 1700s. Then, by the 1830s, factories over in Dundee, Scotland, figured out how to mechanically spin jute into yarn.
Big technological breakthrough.
Huge. Suddenly, jute was this massive global commodity. And Narayanganj, with its river port right in the heart of where jute was ground in eastern Bengal, was perfectly placed. It became the hub for processing and trading raw jute.
The main collection point.
The absolute epicenter, which led to that famous nickname.
The Dandy of the East. I read that because of Dundee, Scotland.
Precisely. It was the Dundee of the East. That nickname tells you just how important it became in the global jute trade.
Dandy of the East. It sounds like it really became the main gateway to that whole part of Bengal.
It absolutely did. Especially once regular steamer services started up in 1862, that cemented it. If you were going to eastern Bengal, you likely went through Narayanganj.
So lots of important people must have passed through.
Loads of them. The sources list people like Lord Curzon, Netaji Subhas Bose, Mahatma Gandhi, the poet Rabindranath Tagore, Qazi Nazrul Islam. They all visited or spent time there.
Wow.
There's even a specific note about Netaji Subhas Bose being arrested right there at the steamer ghat in November 1931. So yeah, a place of major historical foot traffic and events.
A port city with real consequence. And alongside this commercial boom, the town itself grew administratively.
Oh yes, you see it becoming more structured. It got its own municipality in 1876. Then, really importantly for trade, it was declared a free port, duty-free in 1880.
Big deal for merchants.
Huge. Then it became a subdivision in 1882. The railway arrived in 1885, the first line in eastern Bengal, linking Dhaka, Narayanganj, and Mymensingh. Big boost for transport.
Connecting it even more.
And you even see social developments like the first European club in eastern Bengal, now the Narayanganj Club, founded in 1893, all signs of a growing, important urban center.
And that administrative growth continued into more recent times.
Yes, it was finally designated as a full district in 1984, and then achieved city corporation status in 2011.
Bringing us right up to its current structure. And, of course, we have to mention its role in the Liberation War.
Absolutely. Like many places in Bangladesh, Narayanganj was an important site during the 1971 war, and its people were deeply involved in the struggle for independence, another really significant layer to its history.
Okay, what a journey. From ancient Sonargaon, Muslin, sultans, poets, Isa Khan.
Through Mughal forts, the salt trade naming the city, the jute boom making it the Dandy of the East, visited by giants of history.
Right up to the Liberation War and its modern status. That's quite a historical sweep. So let's pivot. What powers Narayanganj today? What's driving its economy now?
Right. Well, today it's still absolutely a vital industrial and commercial center for Bangladesh, no question. But the focus has shifted from, jute and salt.
So what are the big players now, according to the sources?
The number one thing is the garments industry. Ready-made garments, or RMG. Narayanganj is a massive hub for garment factories. They're exporting clothes, huge amounts, mainly to Europe and America.
So that ancient textile connection kind of lives on, just in a totally modern industrial way.
Exactly. It's fascinating how that thread continues, isn't it? From muslin to modern factories.
What else stands out in the economy?
Leather is another significant industry mentioned. There are quite a few leather factories and tanneries operating there.
Okay. And the rivers. Are they still economically important or more historical features now?
Oh, no, they are still absolutely critical. The Shitalakshya especially, it's a primary commercial waterway. The port is very much active,
Still a working port.
very much so.
Yeah.
Lots of marine businesses rely on it. And you've got shipyards and dockyards along the riverbanks, building and repairing boats and ships. So, yeah, water transport is still deeply woven into the city's economic fabric, just like it always was.
That makes sense. So it's clearly a complex place economically. How is it all managed administratively?
It has that dual structure we touched on. It functions as a district, which is overseen by a government-appointed district commissioner, or DC,
Right.
but it's also an independent city corporation, which has its own elected city mayor and council managing city services.
And did the sources mention any key figures involved in running things?
They did. They mentioned the current DC, M. Nandasura Raman Mia. And quite notably, they highlighted Selina Hayat Ivy. She's the city's first and so far only female city mayor. Apparently very popular, known for her work, especially in improving health services.
Interesting. And the structure underneath them.
The district is divided into 6 upazilas. Think of them as sub-districts or banas. And the city corporation itself is split into 27 wards for local administration.
Okay. And you mentioned the DC's office was even trying to highlight the local history.
Yeah, that was a nice detail. Apparently they've commissioned some sculptures based on local heritage to be placed right in front of the DC office, trying to connect the present administration back to that deep past.
Yeah.
That's a good touch. Okay, so we've got the history, the economy, the administration. What about the feel of the place? The culture, the people, daily life?
The sources describe the culture as, well, a blend. You've got the strong foundation of Bengali traditions, of course, but it's also shaped by that religious diversity we mentioned, Muslim, Hindu, Christian, Buddhist communities living together.
So lots of different festivals and traditions mingling.
Exactly. Festivals are a big part of community life. And there's mention of arts, literature, music, dance, all being part of the cultural scene.
Were any specific personalities, maybe influential local figures, mentioned?
Yes, a few names came up. AKM Shamim Osman was mentioned. He's an MP, described as an influential Awami League leader. We already talked about Mayor Selina Hayat Ivy.
Right.
And one source also referenced Syed Sohrawardy, a major historical figure, former Prime Minister of Pakistan, noted for his role in the independence movement. So figures spanning politics and history connected to the area.
Okay, so we're getting a picture of a busy, diverse city with deep roots and influential figures. Now, the exciting part for many listeners, if you actually go there, what should you see? Our sources explored quite a bit on the ground.
Ah, yes, the virtual tour. Okay, where to start? You almost have to begin back in the Sonargaon area, where it all originated.
Makes sense. Go back to the roots.
Exactly. And the highlight there has to be Panam Nagar.
Kanam Nagar, describe it for us.
It's basically one of Bengal's oldest cities, but now it's mostly these incredible ruins.
Yeah.
The architecture is the star. It's mainly colonial era, but you see this fascinating mix of styles. Hints of Mughal, even Greek influences blended with local designs.
Sounds atmospheric.
Very, like walking through history. But a practical tip from one traveler, there was a small entry fee around 20 taka, and they mentioned video wasn't allowed, though photos were fine. Something to keep in mind.
Good practical advice. What else is essential in Sonargaon?
The Sonargaon Museum is a must. Its official name is the Bangladesh Folk Arts and Crafts Foundation. It was founded by the famous artist Zainal Abidin, which tells you something about its importance.
What kind of things are inside?
It's all about preserving the region's artistic heritage. You'll find amazing folk art, traditional crafts, old musical instruments, these traditional scroll paintings called pachitro, fantastic wood carvings, terracotta pieces, artifacts that really bring ancient Bengal and its rural life alive.
Sounds like it gives real context to the area's history.
Absolutely. And the Isa Khan Zamindar house is nearby too, connecting back to that Baro Huion history. Though one traveler did mention an unfortunate smell near the steps there, which, is part of the real travel experience sometimes.
Uh-huh. Yes, the less glamorous details. Any other historical buildings there?
The Golconda Mosque was mentioned as a good surviving example of architecture from the Sultani period.
Okay. And wasn't there something unexpected? A replica?
Ah, yes. The Taj Mahal of Bengal. It's near Sonargaon. An industrialist named Ahsan Ullah Moni built this replica of the Agra Taj Mahal, made of clear stone, apparently, with a fountain and garden.
A modern copy. Interesting choice.
Definitely unique. One source even mentioned seeing other sculptures nearby, like a pyramid and one of Kudiram, so a bit of a modern attraction right near the ancient sites.
A real mix. Is there anywhere nearby to just enjoy some nature? Escape the history for a bit.
Yes, Maya Dwip was recommended. It's a small island in the Meghna River, described as really beautiful, peaceful, cool breezes off the water, open green fields. Sounds like a great spot for a boat trip or a picnic, away from the bustle.
Nice. Okay, stepping away from Sonargaon itself, those Mughal forts we talked about, people can visit them.
Yes, Hajiganj Fort and Sonarkanda Fort, they're still standing. You can see the 17th century defensive structures, the thick walls, the openings for cannons facing the river. Really gives you a sense of that past era of river pirates and defense.
Cool. What about other parts of the district? Rupganj came up, I think. Something about a big house?
That's right. The Murapara Zamindar House in Rupganj. It's this grand old estate built back in 1889, apparently by someone named Ram Ratan Banerjee, according to one source.
Still standing.
Yes. And it's impressive. Intricate architecture. It's actually used as a government college now, but they've preserved its historical character. Travelers noted it has a big field and a pond nearby, too.
Sounds worth seeing. And Rupganj also has a big park.
Jinda Park. This sounded quite amazing. It's huge, about 150 acres, packed with nature. Over 10,000 trees, apparently 5 lakes or ponds, even a mini zoo. Presented as a really ideal spot for families, friends, just getting out into green space.
Sounds like a major asset for the area. Okay, let's move into the main city, Narayanganj Sadar. What are the key landmarks or spots there?
Well, the Baitul Amanjay Mosque is mentioned as a very large, important religious site. And of course, the banks of the Shitalakshya River right in the city.
The heart of the city.
Exactly. There's the main ferry ghat, always busy. The views, especially around sunset, are supposed to be quite scenic. Multiple sources mention the downside. Unpleasant smells from the river pollution can really impact the experience, unfortunately.
Aw, that pollution issue again.
Yeah. Though the good news is there are development projects underway, trying to build walkways, parks, beautify the riverbanks, make them more accessible and enjoyable.
That's positive. What else in the city center? Sports? Landmarks?
The Khan Sahib Osman Ali Fatullah Stadium is the big cricket ground there. And one traveler shared this really vivid story about visiting it.
Oh, yeah.
They apparently weren't allowed in without special permission, got quite frustrated, and ended up using a drone to get a look inside.
Huh. Resourceful, but highlights potential access issues, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Or just, the kind of bureaucratic hurdles you can sometimes face. It was a memorable anecdote.
Definitely. Any other key points in the Sadar area?
Yeah.
Intersections, buildings?
Yeah, the sources mention specific spots like the Metro Hall intersection, which has a sculpture called Bijoy Ulash, and the Chishara intersection with the Shahid Ikra Cheddar. Landmarks like the Metro Cinema Hall were pointed out.
Just everyday reference points for locals.
Exactly. Plus various government buildings, important schools like Goethe Tolaram College and Narayanganj Adursha School, the court area, the circuit house, the district jail, the new market area, and the river port itself. One traveler mentioned paying a tiny 2 taka entry fee just to get onto the port area. So a real mix of administrative, commercial, educational, transport hubs clustered together.
A very dense urban core, it sounds like. Did any sources venture across the river into Bandar Upazila?
One did, yeah. Described taking a boat across, which sounds like a classic Narayanganj experience. They even met a local boatman named Muhammad Hussain.
Nice personal touch. What did they see in Bandar?
They visited the Guft Haji Ibrahim Al-Amsar Model School and College, mentioning it was quite large with a big field.
And any natural beauty over there, away from the main city bustle?
Definitely. They specifically highlighted the Sabdi Big Bridge, which crosses the Brahmaputra River, noting the beautiful scenery all around it. And they also visited the Sabdi Flower Garden, describing it as a really lovely, colorful spot.
So, crossing the river reveals a different side.
Mm.
Any other areas mentioned? Arayasar?
Briefly, yeah. Mentions Sarkari Safar Ali College and the Upazila Parashad building there. And another personal connection from a traveler, the Baliapara Zamindar house, which they identified as Manik's grandfather-in-law's house.
Little connections like that make it real.
And Arai Hazar is also linked to the Brahmaputra River. And interestingly, back to Narayanganj's fame for jute, the golden fiber.
Okay, so the sources really give a great tour of the district. We've covered so much history, economy, culture, places to see.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the smell by the river multiple times. Let's talk about the challenges, particularly the environment.
Yeah, this came through loud and clear in the sources. It seems to be the most significant challenge Narayanganj is grappling with. The river pollution is severe.
And what's the primary cause?
It's pretty direct, according to the sources. Thousands upon thousands of liters of untreated industrial waste, especially from dying factories and chemical plants, being dumped straight into the rivers. Plus, of course, household waste contributes too.
Directly into the Shitalakshya and affecting the wider river system like the Burganga?
Exactly. The impact is, well, devastating.
How so?
The water is described as basically unusable for many purposes. And tragically, fish populations are dying off. It's a major environmental crisis. It really throws that tension between the city's industrial power and ecological health into sharp relief.
A stark reminder of the need for balance. So is anything being done? Are there efforts towards a more sustainable future alongside the industry?
Yes, thankfully. The sources do highlight several ongoing development projects that seem aimed at improving things.
Like what?
There are efforts to re-excavate and beautify some of the internal canals, like the Baburel Canal and the Sitarganj Canal. The idea is to improve drainage, maybe even revive some local water transport routes within the city.
Cleaning up the waterways from the inside out, potentially?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also investment in public green spaces. Projects like the Sheikh Russell Park and the development around Gymkhana Lake are creating recreational areas, which are badly needed in such a dense city.
Places for people to relax and connect with nature.
Exactly. And as we mentioned, those projects to build walkways and parks along the main Shitalakshya riverbank, like in Banthura, trying to reclaim the riverside for the public, make it usable and pleasant again, despite the challenges.
Bringing people back to the riverfront safely. What about culture and arts? Any developments there?
Yes, the sources mentioned the establishment of a Charukala Institute focused on arts and culture, and the construction of the Ali Ahmad Chunka Library, an auditorium investing in cultural infrastructure.
Good to hear. And transport. That must be a huge issue, being so close to Dhaka and so dense.
Oh, definitely. Traffic congestion is mentioned as a major headache, as you'd expect. But there are big transport improvements happening or planned.
Such as?
The Dhaka Narayanganj railway line has had a major upgrade. A new dual-gauge line allows for way more trains, like 76 daily trains, significantly boosting passenger capacity between the two cities.
That should make a difference. Anything else?
The big one on the horizon is the metro rail. There are plans to extend Dhaka's metro system out to Narayanganj. That's seen as really crucial for tackling those infamous traffic jams and making the commute easier.
A metro link would be a game changer. So it sounds like there's a real push, despite the problems.
That's the impression. A concerted effort to modernize, to make the city more livable, more connected, more culturally vibrant, while still being this industrial powerhouse, trying to strike that balance.
Right. So we've really covered a lot of ground, from ancient Sonargaon, the Muslim capital.
Through centuries of shifting power, the rise of Narayanganj itself, fueled by salt and jute, becoming the dandy of the East.
To the modern industrial giant, the densely packed city, the cultural hub it is today.
Yeah, and we've seen those sharp contrasts, haven't we? The incredibly deep history visible in ruins and forts, right next to modern factories.
The economic strength that relies so heavily on its rivers, rivers that are simultaneously facing this severe pollution crisis.
That intense urban density, but then these pockets of natural beauty like Mayadwip or Jinda Park, and the new planned green spaces trying to offer some relief.
It really is a city shaped by water, defined by its layers of history as this crucial port and trading center.
And now wrestling with its present identity as this vital economic engine that absolutely has to deal with huge environmental and developmental pressures.
So, thinking about all that, its extraordinary past, as a capital, a gateway for global trade.
And its current reality, this economic powerhouse, yes, but facing these massive environmental challenges while also pushing for modernization and sustainability.
How does a city like Narayanganj weave all that together? How does it reconcile that incredible legacy with the urgent needs of the future? What kind of unique identity gets forged in that mix of history, industry, and environment?
That's the question, isn't it? Something really powerful to think about.